Charting Toward Intimacy covers mature topics. Listener discretion is advised. When your husband asks, "So, when are we going to have sex?" do you feel more like a fertility calendar than a woman he desires? This episode breaks down why that question hits so hard, how your mindset might be sabotaging connection, and exactly what to say so you stop dreading sex and start feeling wanted, seen, and excited again. Welcome to Charting Toward Intimacy, the podcast for Catholic women that helps you improve your sex life, strengthen your marriage, and embrace God's design for love. My name is Ellen. Let's get started. Let me paint a picture for you. You most likely just ovulated and your husband knows it. He asks you, "So when are we going to have sex?" You immediately tense up. That question immediately causes you to bristle up. Can't he just chill? I literally just ovulated. Why is he always pestering me about when we're going to have sex? You feel pressure, discontent, but you don't share it out loud. You just explain when you most likely think the fertile window rules will be fulfilled for your current charting method and end the conversation. A few days pass and that day comes nearer. Instead of anticipating with joy, you are dreading sex. All he cares about is sex. He doesn't even care about me and my body and my desires and when I would like to have sex. He just wants to know the first possible date we can have sex without getting pregnant so he can fulfill his desires. Let's be honest. There is something about that question. So when are we going to have sex? It feels loaded. Maybe it even feels a little gross. You feel pressure. You feel unseen. It can feel like he's watching your body like a fertility clock instead of seeing you. And let me say that you are not crazy for feeling that way. But here's the hard truth. Sometimes we're reacting not just to the words he says, but we're reacting to what we think he means. And when we assume the worst, it robs us of peace, joy, and real connection. Now, that doesn't mean that your husband gets a free pass to speak carelessly, but what it means is that you actually have power and agency in how you interpret what is said. So let me paint a slightly different picture from your husband's side. He's been thinking, "You look so good this week. You've been full of energy and you brought so much life and love into the house the past week." He's really looking forward to having sex with you because he loves you. He knows that you're probably pretty close to ovulation, but he doesn't exactly know where you're at in your cycle because you haven't shared it with him in the past day or two. And he can't remember if the rule is peak +4 or peak +5. So he approaches you to ask when the fertile window will close and when he could make love to you. And he unfortunately chooses maybe not the best wording because sex is still a bit of an awkward conversation topic for him. So when are we going to have sex? All right, so there's two reasons why this question bothers you so much when your husband asks it. The first reason is his exact words, and the second reason is your interpretation of his words. I know it might not feel like it in the moment, but the way that you interpret your husband's words is something that you actually have full control over. You might not be able to control how he phrases things or whether he remembers the rules of NFP, but you are able to choose what story you tell yourself in your head, and that is going to help you immensely. So let me be clear. I am not saying that you should ignore your feelings or pretend that hurtful things don't hurt. But when he says something like, "So when are we going to have sex?" instead of letting your mind spiral into, "He only cares about sex, he doesn't see me," etc., what if you offered yourself a different thought? He's trying, but he doesn't know how to ask the right way. He probably doesn't remember the exact rule right now and just wants to be close to me. He's thinking about sex because he loves me and desires me. Even if those don't really feel like natural yet, like you're like, "Ooh, if I try to say that, I can't even really believe it." Practicing those and choosing to believe them on purpose can shift how you feel in moments like this. You can go from feeling tense, you can go from feeling objectified to maybe feeling curious maybe feeling seen, maybe even feeling a little cherished by the fact that your husband wants to have sex with you. And those are the feelings that lead to deeper unity and better connection. Okay, so we don't have to be victims of our first reaction to the things that our husband says. We can assume the best, and it's going to actually help you feel better about everything. It doesn't actually change anything about your husband or like what he says. All it does is it changes you and it helps you feel better about what's going on. So the one that we have less power over, but can absolutely still ask for change on, is his exact words. So here's a super simple way that you could bring it up. Hey, I know sex can be awkward to talk about, but when you ask to have sex using the question, so when are we going to have sex? It makes me feel a little like I'm just a body on a schedule. What I'd love instead is something like, and you can enter in what you would like to hear, right? It could be something like, hey, I'm excited to be close again. Can you remind me where we're at in your cycle? So you can give your husband a script that will help him know what to actually ask in those situations. And you can tell him, that would help me feel loved. That would help me be more excited to have sex. That would help me feel more united to you. All right. The big thing here is we're not giving a lecture, right? We're not like, hey, you did all of these things wrong. Just giving him like a simple script that he can use. That goes a long way. All right. So here's what I want you to take away from this episode. 1, you cannot always change what your husband says when he asks you, so when are we going to have sex? Or whatever the question or phrase is that you don't like very much or that makes you bristle. But you can change what you assume he means. The second thing is assume the best, not because your husband's perfect, but because that is how love operates. And because when you assume the best, you are setting yourself up for the best connection with your husband. And the third thing is you are allowed to ask for more loving and respectful words, especially around topics as intimate as sex. When you go to ask for more loving and respectful words, it is extremely helpful to give examples of what would be helpful for your husband to say. Because if you just go to him and say, I don't like the way that you asked that, he doesn't really know what about it you didn't like, right? So if you say, I didn't like the way that you asked that, this is what I would like instead, that is so much more clear for him and he can understand what it is that you react to, respond to better. Okay, so when it comes to these words, when it comes to like initiating sex, asking about when the fertile window's closing, like all these topics, it's okay to feel really sensitive about this. It's okay to need very gentle words to be used around this topic. And it is okay to ask for them. But I also don't want you to miss the opportunity to soften your own heart too. This is a two-way street, right? Nobody in the example that I gave is 100% like right. Both could give and take a little bit. So when you choose to believe the best about your husband, even when his words are clumsy or inaccurate or maybe even feel hurtful, when you're choosing to believe about the best, you are making space for real connection, real intimacy. All right, you've got this. If you need help with what to say or how to reconnect, I have resources that can help you with that. Check out the links in the show notes.
Thanks so much for listening. Let's be honest, if sex has started to feel a little routine, awkward, even disconnected, it might be time to mix things up. But as a Catholic woman, you want to do that without feeling like you've stumbled into something sketchy or worse, pornographic. That is where the Catholic Sex Position Guide comes in. It's fun, it's faithful, it's packed with tips and tricks, and it's designed to help you explore new ways to connect with your husband without ever crossing moral lines. You can grab the guide at vinesandfullbloom.com/positionsguide or check the show notes for the link.